Welcome back to the Women in AV podcast. I am your host, Erica Carroll, and today we are diving into another inspiring story of a woman breaking barriers in the audiovisual world, celebrating her accomplishments and working towards better visibility and representation in Pro AV. Today we have a guest who perfectly embodies that mission with her diverse experience and unique perspective. Meet Michelle Loret.
Quite a buildup. I hope I don't disappoint.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. You know, living the dream, as we say in the AV world.
Living the dream. Excellent. So let's just jump in. Your career path has been incredibly varied, and you and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and I got to learn a little bit more about your background with that. And your roles weren't directly in Pro AV, but they were in technology. So can you take us back to the beginning? What first drew you into technology and infrastructure side of things?
I was doing staffing and recruiting, and we had picked up some customers that were structured cabling companies. And I saw that I enjoyed doing projects on the IT side and the sense of accomplishment. And, you know, they weren't like warehouse jobs. They were kind of blue collar, want to be white collar, you know, layer one of the network. And I just thought, well, what a good industry. You know, much like Pro AV, it's a very low barrier to entry. Yay. Yay for our low voltage cousins, you know. And people can make really good lives in these industries. And so I started in the cabling world. Started on the time side of the equation, doing employees for projects. And then from there, I went to distribution. I worked at Graybar on the voice and data side. And so that kind of let me understand how the cabling game was played. And I did that for a while. And then when I left there, I was working with a voice over IP company that was creating a software video conferencing codec. And because I didn't know anything about AV, I didn't know they probably could have just like white labeled it somebody else's, you know, that had already done all the heavy lifting. But no, to his credit, Victor with Appia, they spent about 1.5 million back, you know, in the aughts, making that happen. Wow. Yeah. So their voice over IP dealers, you know, could also have a video conferencing offering, which I thought was brilliant. So I just thought that was so smart. And I kind of always liked the conferencing side. And then I got called by a headhunter, and they were hiring for Ford AV, and they were looking for somebody to work House of Worship. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. Because I had done House of Worship. I used to sell trips to the Holy Land, custom trips, back in the day when I was a travel agent. Okay. So I know how protective all those little, church ladies are. So I was like, I'm really more of an enterprise person. That's what I've been doing for the last decade and a half. So maybe we need to stay there. And so, so that's what we did. So it was great. I mean, integration is the hardest job in business, but it taught me so much. I learned all about the engineering and the code and the programming and user interfaces and you name it, commissioning, making all the blinky lights talk to each other when they're not from the same manufacturer. It's there's definitely, a lot of skill and talent that goes into the industry. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So with all of that culminating to where you are now, how would you describe the breadth of what you do now? And tell me a little bit about your business. And
the business is definitely the business is whatever we need it to be that day. The business is civil. No, I'm kidding. The business is not civil with all 21 of our personalities. So we really had the idea because one of our customers, he's like, why don't y'all go get paid for what y'all have already been doing? And, he works for an end user. And so we thought about it. And so in the IT world and the construction world, there is, a group of companies. They are known as tenant reps, if you will, like a Jones Lang LaSalle. And they know you have this construction project and you are not construction experts, but they are. And they will, more or less be your Sherpa, your advocate, your liaison. They'll take that off your plate and make sure that things go more smoothly. Because they know the channels, they know the processes, they know, also who to work with. So we really wanted to be that client advocate at the end user, and also have the ability to champion our integrators, right? Because, we're good at translating and we're good at smoothing things out and we're good at communicating. So we thought, well, we've got those superpowers. We can use those for good. We can make end users happier. We can make them not hate their integrator by the time the project's done. I mean, what we do is really hard. And so, for an end user, they can become very frustrated at the process. So we just want to turn that frown upside down and have a bunch of happy faces and like, yay, we all love technology. So, I think going to market with that and knowing who to work with. Right. We know people at the manufacturers. We understand what a typical consultant in our industry does in terms of working with architects, which is completely different than what we do as a consultant.
Right.
Same name, completely different. As a matter of fact, oftentimes the consultant that works with an architect is frustrated because he doesn't get to talk and work with the users. And then once stuff starts getting built, the end users that have to occupy and use the technology are like, well, who signed off on this? And it's like, look, whatever the team was, they didn't choose, So it's a chance to do good. That's one aspect of it. We're going to have charitable aspect of it. We've got, it's definitely a consortium. We know who we like. We know who makes good product. We know who does good things. Let's all take care of each other. Right. It's a small world, and
Absolutely.
It doesn't really fit a typical box in Pro AV. But I like working with manufacturers and telling them what they're doing wrong in terms of engaging our channel.
Of course.
We're precious. Yeah. We're lovely. We're the, the jewels in the tiara, as I've said a million times, which I stole from Frank Pelkoff at Utology, but he's not wrong. Our stuff people get excited about. They're not showing them their data center. They care less about a hot and cold aisle. They're showing them their new TV LED wall and the new auditorium and, things that people can have pride in. Yeah. So it's an interesting process. It's been an interesting evolution. And, we just want to do whatever people need. What do they need?
Yeah.
Do you need to know how to start a managed service practice within your integration company? Great. I know a guy. His name's Colin Burke. You want to get further educated? I know a gal. Her name's Erica Carroll, right? Like we all know someone. And I think the more people get engaged, then that just kind of strengthens the breadth of our network and rising tides raise all boats. So I'm just here kind of evangelizing about that as well and trying to see what does and doesn't work.
I love that. And also, this actually is a pretty good segue because you're also actively contributing to the industry's conversation and visibility with your podcast, the Mostly AV podcast.
I am not as consistent as an AVNation production. I'm just that full disclosure. I don't know. We get on a roll and then there's a pandemic and I don't,
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But the point is that we have the resources that are out there that is, rising tides. Yeah. How can we get more out there about us as an industry? You being a guest on here, being a guest on AVNation, having your own podcast, being in front of people. What do people need? How can we show up in that way? I love that about you.
Well, we have to just remind people they don't know we exist. Right. So, because what is client facing is the technology, and as service providers, the service providers are the unsung heroes. Right. But we just have to keep reminding people and also educating them on how to engage us. Right. Because there's plenty of times they might not need a third-party consultant to help manage this low-voltage process known as audiovisual integration. But maybe they just need a really good integrator that will help them do that. And they would like to handle it in-house. Good. I'm not going to cry over it. I mean, I just want to make sure that it's a good, positive outcome, and I can send you and I can let you know who's good and I can let you know who sucks and I can let you know who I trust and who I don't. That's how it works, right? And you kind of live and die by that. But I think the more we talk about women in our industry, the better it is for all women. We just can keep reminding people of all the great things that we contribute to the industry, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how we want to make it better. We want to make them smarter. Because, the smarter we all are, the better we all do. I mean,
Yeah,
knowledge is power, right? So, I
absolutely.
think we have to have those conversations because people don't know. They don't know, and they're
Mm-hmm.
leaving money on the table. And if you really want to
Yep.
be able to take care of your families and your employees and their families, right, then we all need to figure out better, more efficient ways to do what we're doing so that, leadership and ownership of these companies can afford to do that. Can afford to give you a bonus, can afford to
Absolutely.
give you a raise, can afford to give a across the board, cost of living increase, even though you're like 3 points. I don't know if that's going to cover it,
No.
but it costs companies a lot of money to do stuff like that. And those are some of the types of
Mm-hmm.
ways, employers don't want to start over.
Mm-hmm.
Despite what it might appear to some, they really don't. It costs a lot of money for a employee to come in and for you to stand them up in your system and train them, and how they
Mm-hmm.
understand the workflows and how you do it, which might be different than where they did it before. So,
Yeah.
when you have that knowledge, you've already made an investment, and it's in
Mm-hmm.
your best interest to nurture, right, that
Yeah.
talent so that they do more, they, rise up the ranks, they become, a superintendent or a project manager or, heaven forbid, a salesperson, the dreaded
Yeah.
salesperson. But, there's lots of opportunity. And I've even seen people go from engineering into sales, and they tend to be super, super, super successful. Now,
Yeah.
99% of the engineers I know are like, ew, I would never want to go into sales. But for those that are engineering minded and skilled and do have that desire, you can do really well. I mean,
Yeah.
customers like that. They like somebody that knows what they're talking about.
That brings up an interesting thought because I've recently been thinking about an XY axis of engagement with people. So for sales and marketing, that is turning a lead or a prospect into a customer, right? So
Mm-hmm,
that's on the X. But if we look at it on the Y and we say internal versus external,
mm-hmm,
and we say we are actively recruiting people, prospecting, and we are actively engaging our existing employees, right? Those are making
mm-hmm.
your current customers happy. And that is so important that you're, looking at it on both the X and the Y axis, that it's not all just everybody knows that existing customers are the
Right.
best way to keep growing. And it's the exact same thing with existing employees and keeping them happy.
Oh, totally. Well, and it's interesting because I see companies churn a lot of customers as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's probably one on one on par with their own internal employee churn.
Mm-hmm.
It's like instead of doing more for the same customers, you're losing the customer. Then you've got to go learn you've got to go the cost to acquire the new customer, the cost to stand up that relationship, let, Bob know Sue because purchasing to purchasing and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot,
Right.
right? And so
Yeah.
wouldn't it be easier if we just didn't lose the other customer and just maybe saw what else we could do for them?
Yeah.
It's literally the definition of insanity. Um, so yeah, I love it. We've got so many helpful tips and tricks. Pay attention. Write this down, people.
Yeah.
Keep your customers. Stop losing them. Well, I
Yeah.
also wonder, sometimes it's hard to like look yourself in the mirror and kind of own up that, look, we really stepped in at this time. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's not your fault.
Yeah.
You went with one manufacturer, they had a supply chain disruption, you can't get the product for, 16 months. Is that really
Mm-hmm.
your bad?
Right.
Not necessarily. But if you didn't come up with a plan B and say, look, we've got to pivot, you're not going to like
Mm-hmm.
it, you're not going to want to hear it, but if you really want to get this project done and off your
Yeah.
books in this calendar year, we would like to recommend this. And if you don't accept our recommendation, which is in your best interest, that's okay. But we
Mm-hmm.
just want to let you know that we're thinking about you that way and
Exactly.
that we would love to remove the pain, but we won't do it by going with XYZ manufacturer because
Right.
they're in a pickle, and it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the good news is AV people are very resilient, so we do
Yes,
always
they
bounce
are.
back. But, I
Yeah.
think giving people the guidelines, letting people know a better way to go about something and communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've given up tons of revenue just because it was the best thing to do for the project.
Absolutely.
I
And
mean,
I've done the
nobody
same.
ever.
I've recommended competitors. If my product's not right and I know what is right,
Yes.
by all means, go for it.
Because sometimes things just aren't a good match, and that's
Right.
okay.
Yep.
I mean, you can't be
Yeah.
everything to all. And I think there's
Mm-hmm.
enough, and we're always looking for new product and the next great thing as well. I do think that there's that opportunity that for us to take advantage of that. Most certainly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
I want to talk a little bit about, again, while your career was developing, you're in a fantastic spot now. And this question is particularly important for our audience, many of whom are looking for guidance or consideration in AV as a career path. And you've navigated a lot of different roles. And so for women who are considering AV, what kind of mentorship or support do you think is most crucial for their growth and confidence and that long-term success?
Well, it's interesting. For example, our current VIXA Women's Council in Houston, it's run by two lovely ladies, Irene Chow and Antoinette Mata. And they run things completely different than myself, Tina, and Josie did. But you know what? One is not better and one is not worse, right? And I like it
Mm-hmm.
because Irene loves to be very kumbaya-ish, right? And she's super like hardcore, thick, lays it on thick with the supportiveness and what can we do? And that's good
Mm-hmm.
because I think we've got especially with those that are new to the industry or just up and coming, it's nice to see people that aren't jaded, right? They're not jaded yet.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, I remember back when I wasn't
Yeah.
jaded either. I miss those days, right? And just making them feel comfortable and creating awareness, right? Letting them know
Mm-hmm.
how they can get engaged, who, what, where, when, how. And also keeping in mind, women, we're more than just sales and marketing. People always
Mm-hmm.
think of us from a sales, marketing, and or education standpoint. But
Mm-hmm.
women are amazing general managers, project managers, engineers, programmers. Girls can do it too.
Absolutely.
Wow. I mean, this is not some new revelation, right? The
Yeah.
problem is people with those skill sets don't even know we exist as an industry. So we create right awareness about our industry and say, hey, you like project managing? Come on over,
Yeah.
because we'll teach anyone. We don't really care where people come from. I don't care if you're a
Mm-hmm.
failed musician. I don't care if you used to install car stereos back when that was a thing, great. People come
Yeah.
from all over, from the networking side. One of the best programmers I know, he's like a real Bobby Boucher type over in Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, the owner of the company, he was a programmer of industrial PLC controls. So he looks at, the Trons and all of our
That's excellent.
proprietary AV code like child's play. He's
Yeah.
like, oh God, I can
Right.
do this blindfolded. I used to do hard stuff. This is nothing, which
Yeah.
is great because it's impossible to find a programmer in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's just not a top
Mm-hmm.
18 market, right? So, sometimes
Right.
you got to home grow them and look other places to find people and let them know. Because the nice thing is in AV, you're not necessarily programming like in a boiler room somewhere or, you know what I mean, right?
Right.
So we have nicer environments, oftentimes with air conditioning. Yay, So, yeah, so I do think
Yeah.
there's just a lot of opportunity and letting people know what those opportunities are. And
Mm-hmm.
also have them not, because look, maybe you're a PK, a preacher's kid, right? Hey, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You want to do house of worship? I already know half a dozen companies that have a specialty or specialize in house of worship. So if you like
Mm-hmm.
calling on houses of worship, you can do that. If you like, live events, you can go do that as well. You like calling on schools, right? K through 12 or higher
Mm-hmm.
ed. Hey, we've got companies that do those things, that specialize in those things. So I think that's what's
Yeah.
so nice is that there really is kind of something for everyone. I mean, if there is something that you gravitate towards, like vertically, maybe
Yep.
healthcare is your jam. All right, great. We do stuff in healthcare all the time. Like, you come
Yeah.
along, let's help us figure out the next great thing in healthcare. How AV can contribute and kind of be part of the solution of making things better.
What are some of the more exciting or challenging things, trends that you're seeing right now in AV, particularly from how they might create new opportunities for women entering the field?
I don't know, Erica. I wish I knew. I wish I had
I
solved that
agree.
part of the Rubik's Cube, right?
Yeah.
I know somebody's paid to figure that out, though, and they're paid really well. So do better,
I'm
whoever you are. You shall remain nameless.
yeah.
Um,
So something that comes to mind for me is user experience.
yeah.
Women are so much more attuned to how they experience spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And last month, I was able to go to the new Epic Universe on a preview day.
Uh-huh.
And we rode some of the rides, which they're utilizing a lot more LED instead of projection, which just causes for a richer, more lifelike experience.
Yeah.
And particularly in the new Fantastic Beasts ride, it's a trial, so you're in like this little, it's almost like a jury box type thing, and the arm mechanism comes out like, and you're in the scene.
Yeah.
So what was interesting about this, because that ride has been done before, that type of ride.
Yeah.
They have LED walls in the back instead of projection, and then they have another floating elevator cart with another LED wall. So you get this depth and realisticness of somebody standing right in front of you with things flying past them. And you get this feeling that you're literally flying through a city. And I can't help but think that there was a woman on this team who thought, how can we make this more realistic? How do we make this user experience?
That's actually, I need to have it put on a t-shirt, because whenever I have a horrible user experience, I always say, I wish there had been a woman on this team. I can already tell there was not 1 ounce of estrogen anywhere in this project. And that we just built something in our own little bubble, and like, hello. Well, and I like there's different ways. I do love the immersive technology. Like, that's what I think is so much fun about that XTC team that AVI SPL has. Forget the fact that they have a lot of great people on that team, good hires, for sure. They get to do fun stuff, right? And I can't help. There is a concept that I believe is going to be rolling out nationally called COSM, COSM. You might have seen some ads on Facebook. They have in Los Angeles and a Dallas location. And it's basically like, it's a stadium style venue that has DV LED that's kind of all encompassing. So it comes up and kind of curves around you. So you feel like you're on the 50-yard line. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we did see.
So this is like a small sphere.
Yeah.
Situation,
like a
immersiveness,
half sphere situation.
Cool.
Yep. And the main thing is they've got this 4K NFL licensed content, right? So I believe that, I don't recall, it might have been Denver and Cleveland were playing, and we're in Dallas, and all the assigned seats where they have food and beverage service, which is also nice, were sold out. Tickets sold out. And I get it. I mean,
that's amazing.
We have people from all over, right? So there's plenty of expats from Cleveland that are, their fans. Sure. And likewise, the same for Denver. But no, I thought, what a great idea. And then the other half of the facility has the big, huge atrium that goes up 3 stories, because it's like a 3-story, right, with 3 different tier levels. And almost like you would see at a sports book, right? Okay. It has the big wall with all these different games showing and whatnot. And I thought, and they do other things as well. They
Hmm.
have to supplement with different types of stuff. But I thought, what a great idea. It's an ex NFL
Yeah,
player came up with the idea, or a team that he's part of. But yeah, I thought, oh, this
that's
is
awesome.
fun. And I wonder whose product they use. And I wonder if I can go
Yeah.
look behind the DV LED wall. Don't you always do that? I'm always like,
Yes,
I
of
really want to
course.
know whose cabinet is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, we do that all the time. As you know, my husband is also in the industry, and we end up on cruise ships or entertainment venues, and we're always like, oh, really? What? I wonder where they went with that projector. Like,
and do you have children?
yes, yeah.
And you have passed this on to them, I presume.
Yeah, so one of them is he's 22 years old and he actually works with an integrator here
Oh,
in Atlanta. So
so y'all on a family trip, and he's like, "Oh my
yeah,
God, look how they mounted that digital signage player on the back of
exactly.
that." Right? What? That's my
Yep.
boy. Chip off the old
Yep.
block, right?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
at least
Yep.
we're looking at cool stuff. One of my girlfriends had gone into the fire alarm sprinkler business. She's like,
Yeah.
it's not as exciting when you walk into a restaurant and you just start looking at their fire suppression. But that's what she would look at, right?
Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, it's like I said, there's fun stuff. I think there's something for everyone. And the
Yeah.
community it's really lots of talent. There's lots of talent and
Mhm.
lots of super creative people, which
Yeah.
is very neat. I mean, that stuff, it like rubs off on you,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we're always looking for, the next great thing, the latest and greatest. I think we've got a few years of challenges in terms of what's going to happen on the global trade side of things. And we certainly
Mhm.
can't ignore that. But I've noticed, look, we survived a pandemic. So, hold my beer. We've
Yeah.
got this, y'all. We'll figure it out. And, the nice thing is there's not a one size fits all. For all of
Mhm.
the cut and dry MTRs, those are Microsoft Teams rooms,
Mhm.
yawn. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
glad we have it. Yay. I'm glad everybody's got their, solution out there. That's not really the fun stuff. As a matter of
No,
fact,
it's not.
if I hear MTR one more time, I'm just going to start self
I know.
talking. Like,
I
what?
know. Or if
Stop.
somebody else comes out with a camera, I totally get
I
it.
know. You're like,
Like,
okay. You know, uh, is the world clamoring for yet another? If you already had one and it's just your newer version, I will totally give you
yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm curious. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what people are going to be coming out with for Infocom. I
Yeah.
know.
I am too.
I think the main thing is the support. I think everybody that is very focused on supporting the integrator and improving and enhancing their integrator support is going to win
Yeah.
over the next 3 to
Mhm.
5 years. People need to know that
Yeah.
you're there for them, right? And that you're
Yeah.
going to kind of go the extra mile and that you're going to make them a priority. And I think the
Yeah.
ones that, employers that continue to add headcount, in
Mhm.
support of that mission, I think they will get an excellent return on their investment.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it before whenever certain things start to contract, people that use that opportunity to invest in their people and in building these teams, um,
Mhm.
they always come out way ahead, once everything
Yeah.
is kind of normalized.
Once
And
it's settled.
yeah, nobody ever goes back and says, "Oh, we wish we wouldn't have made the team stronger. Wow, it really
Yeah.
sucks that here we are today with more sales and enough,
Yeah.
staff to take care of our clients." Nobody ever says it, Erica. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
In the spirit of learning and new things, what are you reading or listening to, or what have you learned recently that is worth sharing?
I am been in the process of listening to a bunch of podcasts of varying sorts on tax strategies for small businesses.
Oh, fascinating. Tell me more.
Well, right? That's the thing. It's like I need to learn. Whenever something
Yeah.
happens, I need to know the who, what, where, when, why. I've
Yeah.
also, I've been there's a young lady, Eliza Lickman. She has a podcast, Leave Your Mark.
Mhm.
She used to be in charge of PR at Donna Karan. So she's a real like Donna,
Okay.
dynamo, having come
Yeah.
from luxury fashion. And I just think she's got some really nice tips and tricks. And so that's one that I recommend. And there is a girl, Corporate Natalie, on LinkedIn, and Corporate Natalie just makes me laugh. And
Yeah.
because she just does all these videos, like little TikTok videos and stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah, she is funny. I agree.
Hilarious.
She's hilarious.
Because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm the eater, you know. And then when the girl holds up her puppy, I'm like, oh, that's me, the attention seeker. Like, there's my dog. Like, nobody cares, you know.
Right.
Or the ghost. Sometimes I'm the ghost, right? I'm not the camera off. So, yeah. So that's kind of what I've been following. I need to study for my CTS, but I keep making excuses. And if you fail to plan, then plan to fail, people. So there's that. So, but you know, right now we're in that march up to InfoComm. So I'm just kind of focusing my energy on that. We've had some nice regional oil and gas type trade shows that have been going on. Those are fun customers. Because they do a lot in the Viz Sim world, and they also have tons of conference rooms, and they also have offshore assets and things that can be remotely monitored and all that other fun stuff. So that's been pretty cool.
So I do have a tradition on the show where the previous guest asks a question for the next guest, not knowing who it might be. So my previous guest was Ying King from Midwich, and her question is, if we hadn't have been talking about your work today, if we weren't talking about work, what would you be most excited to talk about?
Oh, if we weren't talking about, all I do is talk about work, Erica.
I know, same.
I know, right? Well, that's the American in us. Literally, and when you travel, you go to Europe, nobody in Portugal is like, oh, what do you do for a living? No, it never comes up. You can be in the UK, nobody ever leads, but that's a very American thing, right? That we're a little corrupted that way, our hard drives. I would probably want to talk about travel and my next vacation. If I wasn't talking about that.
Do you have one planned?
No, I don't. The next vacation I need. My next trip is Orlando, Eric.
Right. I know. I'll see you there.
That's not it. I know, right?
In the spirit of trips, real quick, so every year we do a Thanksgiving trip. So that's our next a Thanksgiving cruise specifically. So that's our next one is November. And if you've ever or never been on a Virgin voyage, 1,000% recommend.
Oh, really? Oh,
100,000%.
And you've done the carnivals of the world and whatnot, and
we did Royal. I've never wanted to do Carnival. It's not really my crowd. But we've done the big ships on Royal back when the Wonder and Symphony were the biggest ships. We did both of those. We've done their small ships.
You're so diplomatic. You're like, no, but I'm not going to call you white trash, Michelle. But Carnival would be a hard pass. Ew. I don't ever get to pick the ship. I'm just letting you know, okay?
Okay. All right. Well, I highly recommend Virgin Voyage. They have, of their tech staff even, 60% are female. It's something that I've commended them in public in the past.
Nice.
And it's a phenomenal cruise line, amazing entertainment, and just a wonderful experience.
Awesome.
So that wraps up this lovely episode. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Michelle Loret, Loret.
Thank you so much again for sharing your story on this episode of the Women in AV podcast. It has been such a pleasure having you on and listening to your insights and your experiences. Now, for everybody else, you can find me in all the social places with the handle @TheEricaCarroll. And to all of our listeners, thank you again. If you're listening to this as audio only, be sure to check out the YouTube version and vice versa. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also find us anywhere you get your podcasts. And remember to check out some of our other AVNation shows, like our friends over at EdTech on AVNation.tv.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation. Hello, this is Steve Greenblatt, host of AVNation's State of Control podcast. Each month, Rich Fregosa and I explore trending topics related to control programming and automation in the audiovisual industry. We speak with a variety of AV professionals who share their perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Please join us for this monthly conversation. Check out A State of Control on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.